Hello and welcome. My name is Amy Erickson, and I'm a faculty coach and development specialist, and I'll be the host of Dr. Metz's and Dr. Jarvie's session using a pedagogy infused with relational cultural theory to enhance belongingness with students. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we've enabled live transcription. If you'd like to use it, click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now, I'm pleased to introduce to you Dr. Cara Metz, Department Chair of the PhD in Human Services and the Bachelor's in Psychology programs, and Dr. Sarah Jarvie, Associate Faculty Member in the Counseling Program at Colorado Christian University. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. Ben, if you want to go to the next slide. All right. Well, welcome to our presentation. Today, Dr. Jarvie and I will be talking about relational cultural theory and how to incorporate that into your pedagogy, whether you're teaching online, but you can also use it if you're teaching in person.
Just highlighting our objective, so understanding the key principles of relational cultural theory, identifying benefits of connectedness and belonging, teaching and addressing challenging topics, and then how you can apply relational cultural theory to the online classroom specifically. Next slide, please.
So what is relational cultural theory? Relational cultural theory is a theory that resembles a humanistic theory, such as person-centered approach, as it sees importance in empathy, respect, and authentic relationships. But it differs from humanism as it emphasizes not individual self-actualization, but rather it looks at the importance of relationships and connection and how that impacts all relationships. RCT believes that relationships are needed for a person's growth and to develop a sense of being fulfilled. When we have authentic relationships where we actively listen and are present, we can thrive. Thinking about education and the classroom, we want to create a sense that we are invested in our students' success and growth. That investment can put forward a sense that the student is not alone in their journey and someone is there to walk with them through the class. Just like other humanistic theories, empathy plays a big role. Empathy is an ability to put ourselves in another person's shoes with their experiences and reflect how they feel and not how we might feel in a particular situation. To demonstrate that, we are trying to truly understand where our students are coming from. We can create trust and connections. Empathy also helps to break down power structures. Notice how I said before about walking with students through a class. I intentionally try to break down the idea of leading and following in an attempt to level some of the hierarchy. Empathy goes a step further too. When we put ourselves in our students' shoes, we are also trying to see the situation through a cultural lens. We cannot assume our students see situations in the same light as us or place the same values we do on things that occur in the classroom. For example, we might expect students to reach out if they have questions or need more time. Students might come from a background where it is not appropriate to do this. It might be looked upon as placing a burden on others or questioning authority. From an RCT perspective, we want to try to understand that perspective, work with the student through that lens, and demonstrate an understanding of those cultural differences. If we continue to look at the importance of connections, we can see that having connection with someone and feeling valued can improve self-esteem and motivation and induce greater productivity. Having an instructor who can demonstrate their belief in a student's ability to succeed and show value in the student's perspective can improve self-worth, take ownership in their educational journey, as well as feel more confident in sharing their perspectives with others. Next slide.
So what are some of the benefits of connectedness in teaching? I think when I initially think about this, I think some benefits of connected teaching are an enhanced engagement in class. When you can empower students to connect with you as a faculty member or as a teaching assistant, you can encourage more active participation. You can increase engagement and have a deeper processing in terms of communication and discussions, discussion boards. And a more collaborative dialogue enhances critical thinking. And so, I think we kind of can come at this from an approach of empowering students to feel connected with each other and with their faculty member. Another benefit of connectedness in teaching is promoting mutual empathy and empowerment, meaning we want to encourage students to express their feelings and their experiences in an authentic manner. We don't want them, yes, they need to be respectful. There's many hot topics in our world today. I think especially there's lots of feelings today after the election, right? But if we can encourage students to express feelings and experience an authenticity within the classroom in a manner that is respectful, that can go a long way. We can help them create that dialogue. And often by modeling, we can model that, if we don't have live sessions with our class, we can model this mutual empathy and empowerment in discussion boards or in our responses to them, or even just in comments in our grades. Another way we can build connection is that we can help build relational resilience and emotional safety. So this kind of ties back into that other one, but a connected classroom offers students emotional safety, where they're more willing to share, they're more willing to speak up and maybe share things or create those connections on hot topics. If we don't have that safety in place and model that this is a safe place and all feelings are, respected, then there's going to be less willingness on the student's part to want to engage in that. Another benefit to connectedness is reducing barriers to learning. Connection reduces fear and self-doubt and other things that kind of, can make students want to shy away from participating. Oh, well, I don't really know what to say on that topic. Or if it's a class that they're not really, maybe it's an elective class or something that's not in their core study, they might shy away from wanting to engage in sharing because they don't feel confident in themselves. I work with many students in our counseling program that are coming back to school after being in a different field, or they've been out of school for a long time. And so helping instill in them some confidence in their self that yes, school might feel different than it did when you were 20 or 18, but you can empower yourself to engage in that learning. And so if we can be connected with our students and encourage them to connect with one another, we can help them kind of overcome some of those barriers of self-doubt and, just kind of maybe more fear about education. Next slide.
So in RCT, it outlines 5 key outcomes of supportive relationships. And these are zest, productivity, clarity, sense of worth, and desire for connection. So let's first look at zest. When we feel understood and supported, we can feel energized and motivated. When we have zest, we begin to engage and find inspiration and also believe in ourselves. We might look for new possibilities for ourselves that we didn't even think were possible. Next, if we look at productivity, when we feel valued, we believe in our ability to contribute in a meaningful way. So like Sarah was talking about, this can show up especially in discussion boards and having engaging conversations. A relationship that demonstrates the other person is valued and supported provides a foundation to have the courage to take risks, put forth our best efforts, and to accomplish more. Then comes clarity. When others empathize with us, we gain insights to ourselves. Clarity can come from feedback. Framing feedback in an empathetic and constructive manner can really help students to understand their strengths, as well as having the willingness to look more closely at where they can improve, because that's an uncomfortable place to sit. Our sense of self-worth gets boosted when we have supportive relationships. We realize we deserve to be treated well and believed in, and this can help us build resilience and confidence. Finally, when we come to the desire for connection. When we experience a positive relationship, we seek out more positive relationships. We seek out those who will believe in us. Students who are more willing to participate and engage in conversations about their peers and their peers' work, that really comes from that desire for connection. Next slide.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. When we think about applying RTC to teaching in an online classroom, we have two slides on this. So I'm going to start with the first thing is authentic connections. So you should hear the word connection a lot in this presentation today, and that's kind of the foundation of relational cultural theory. But so as an instructor, how can we share about ourselves and our strengths and our background and maybe even some of our struggles, or just being willing to admit, I'm having a harder day. My 3-year-old today actually has a fever and has been sick. And so, sometimes, I have been known to share these things with my students of like, I'm behind on emails today because I had to, take half a day to take my kid to the doctor, and because they're sick. And so I think when we can show students that we are real people too, and we're not just some kind of name on the screen, then we can help build the more authentic connections. Check-ins throughout the class. So being, if you're having like a virtual session, pausing for a moment and just, stopping PowerPoints. I've been known to do this, to stop my PowerPoint so I can see everybody and just have a time for connection. Like, how are things going? Do you have any questions? Is there anything I can clarify? And just the check-ins also of, sometimes in a semester you can feel like students are just worn out and there's a heaviness. And so just having those times to be like, okay, how is everybody doing? Like for me, my semester is like over halfway done. And this is the time when students are feeling that. They're feeling tired. They're feeling run down. Having virtual office hours that are just open for students to pop in. I have done this. I do this weekly, and often nobody shows up, and I can just be there and get work done. But there are times where students do show up, and we can be present with them and answer their questions in real time. Being flexible, our learning management system at my university went down this weekend. And so I got lots of emails from students freaking out because they couldn't access their assignments. And so, letting them know that, they didn't need to freak out about missing the due date, that, I would grant them extra time to get their assignments in. Another way to build connection is creating authentic and personalized feedback. So I know there's times for me when I tend to give the same feedback, you're grading 25 of the same assignments, it can kind of get redundant. But think about, how can I tailor this and really make it personal? Yeah, maybe I'm giving some of the same comments, but is there a way for me to make a connection with the student? Or, just tailor it to them, or maybe they're sharing something, maybe it's a journal. How can you tailor your feedback to build that connection? And also always using empathy and understanding. Another point is thinking about mutual empowerment, that students are able to maybe take a time and present what they learned to the class, kind of or you can also do this in kind of a flipped classroom way, right? Where students, engage in the material and then they, teach it, or they break up into groups and engage in material and then come back together and present it. There's a lot of creative ways to do that. Peer feedback and instructor feedback that is more focused on growth. I used to teach a research class, and I would have them exchange research drafts and get peer feedback. And that was really valuable because it wasn't just from me, as the grader, it was, with someone else, that their peers. And then having projects that students can work on together to focus on their strengths. I think students don't like group projects often, but it is a reality that, you don't work in silo, by yourself. You need to be able to learn how to communicate and collaborate and engage in groups. And then continuing to promote belonging and inclusion, just welcoming diverse perspectives and experiences and acknowledge progress. That all kind of sets the stage for creating that safety and belonging and just feeling of being included in someone that's valued. Next slide.
Some other things to do, creating psychological safety. I know there are select classes that I know are going to be, that could be a little bit divisive. So for example, any courses where we're learning about different cultural perspectives. Also, when we talk about ethics, these classes can create some diverse experiences, diverse opinions. And so in these classes, in the introduction, I actually have students create their own set of class rules. This kind of makes them feel like they have a part in what it means to feel safe in the classroom. Someone's not just providing the rules for them, but they get to create them. They're more invested in them, and they really do a really good job of following them. I know there's always differences of opinions, but I find that once I incorporated this idea of setting rules, everybody is very respectful of one another. They try to hear each other out. And that is a very common thing, is like, we can have differences of opinions. Please just try to hear the other perspective before, talking about your own perspective. And so I always find that students come up with some really great and strong rules, and they do talk about how they feel safe to discuss things in those classes. We also want to have relational reflection. So we want to give students the opportunity to reflect on how the relationships within the classroom have impacted them and have impacted their learning. So having journal assignments where students can reflect on how classroom connections have impacted their learning, but not just that, how they contribute to the class. So remember, we talked about this idea of a sense of worth and really feeling more confident in their knowledge. When you feel confident that in something, you feel safe to contribute to the class, and realize that although you might not have the same knowledge as other people, and maybe other people seem way more confident in the subject, you still have a lot to provide. You still have a lot of input that holds value. And this can really help with students' confidence and understanding that we all think differently, but that doesn't mean that anyone is better than the other. Also, resilience through relational support. So again, having an assignment or a journal that includes a reflection on personal progress. I love to have these in classes that really have students thinking more inwardly and what the material is impacting them. And so having some sort of journal or a portion of an assignment where it's not graded on their thoughts, but graded on the fact that they are willing to put forth this reflection can be really, really important and can show a student their growth. And then having an opportunity for peers to mentor one another. being able to see that we all have value in what we can contribute, and others really value our strengths, and where we have strengths, others might not, and vice versa. And so having that relationship that goes back and forth can really provide a great environment for resilience. Next slide. And I'll talk a little bit more about the ideas I brought forth before: the zest, productivity, clarity, sense of self-worth, and connection. You can also bring these into an online classroom. So with zest, bring your personality and your enthusiasm into the classroom and teaching. I will tell you one thing that my students or people that I work with will tell you is I feel like I have a lot of energy most of the time. And it's just because I have so much passion about the subjects that I teach that just really translates into this energy and enthusiasm. I'm excited about the material. I'm excited for you to learn about the material, especially if they come into the class maybe nervous about what it is, like research classes, maybe not as confident. If I can bring in that energy and that excitement, it really does rub off on the students. You can record announcements, lectures, discussions, and feedback. These are all ways that you can bring that enthusiasm in, show that you have a voice, show your authenticity. Vary the ways that you have students engage, especially in online learning, having a discussion post and having an assignment. And then the next week you have a discussion post and then you have an assignment. And then the next week you have a discussion post and then you have an assignment. You can lose your zest, right? So finding ways to vary what you do in the classroom week to week. Have some fun things that you do, things that aren't as maybe serious, or maybe some things are more academically focused while others are more personal reflection. Create weekly polls that you can put in announcements. Find different ways to demonstrate the material, or do word clouds about some of the big ideas that are coming up in each discussion. And then highlight progress and success. If students see that they are progressing, if they're learning, they're growing, they will naturally have enthusiasm for what they're learning. Productivity, things we can do to help students become more productive: scaffold assignments. So the first assignment is the basics, and then the next assignment builds on the first assignment, and so on. I created a research course, and so every week in their assignment, they do one thing, and then their discussion post, they will present some of the things that they did in their assignment, and then build upon that and get peer feedback. So they're not just getting my feedback on something, but they're also hearing what their peers are saying. And again, that promotes the fact that, one student might be strong in one way, but they also have ways to contribute to help students along in their learning process. And provide student tips for success. So sometimes I post an announcement and I'll, talk about how to read feedback, not just how do you get to your feedback, but also how do you prepare yourself to read feedback. Reading feedback can be an emotional process. It sets off things in our brain that actually create fear, because it's like this fight or flight response. And so, even talking to students about how to read their feedback. So anything, and also in my announcements each week, they get longer as I teach the class more, because I will give them helpful tips on, like, here's where students maybe struggle a little bit more, or here's where I see students missing some points, and kind of giving them ideas on how they can be more successful in their assignments. When we talk about clarity, we want to make sure that our assignments are clear, understandable, and realistic. You can have a great assignment, but it might be way too much for a person to accomplish within the allotted amount of time, or it might be way above the level that they are learning at that point. So making sure that we have clear and realistic expectations for our students. Include opportunities for personal reflection and assignments. I mentioned that before. Be open to student feedback on your class and your teaching. I tell students that I want to hear their feedback. I'm a work in progress, just like they are, right? In every class, I try to get better and better in my teaching, but I need that feedback too. Like, what can I do better to help students more? I also say, hey, I make mistakes. So if you find a mistake, let me know and I will correct it. Showing that I am a real person and all real persons are vulnerable as well as are not perfect. And so being able to offer that to students can really create that authentic relationship. And then also with clarity, active listening and empathy. A big part of empathy and active listening is about reflection and reflecting what you are understanding about what the student is saying. And so if we can reflect that, even if we're wrong, it provides the student an opportunity to be more clear with us so that we can help them more. A sense of self-worth. So highlighting students' achievements and strengths. Whenever you're giving feedback, try to recognize where the student is really strong, not just where points are being taken off or where they need growth. If you see progress, making sure that you mention that. And be meaningful when interacting with students. So be purposeful in your interactions. Don't just say great job and then move on. Like include something specific that that student, said or that student did. Be sure that you're really highlighting those areas that the students need the growth or that they're doing exceptional so that they build that confidence to do it more. And then connection, creating ways that students can work together. Sarah, Dr. Jarvie mentioned, hey, students hate group work. So how can we jazz it up to make it not as strenuous? Develop intentional ways for students to help one another. When I create discussions, I create how I would like them to respond to one another. And so sometimes it means like giving peer feedback. I want you to do X, Y, and Z and really think critically about your peer's response. Talk about one positive thing that you saw and ask one question that they could use to clarify, or point one thing out that they could use to grow or how you might do it differently. So again, showing that we all have our strengths and areas of growth and we can help one another using those. And also with connection, expressing gratitude. I think I thank my students so much, or I use a lot of words like, phenomenal and fabulous and all these words that I'm showing that I really appreciate the hard work that they're putting into the assignment. Even if it's not the best assignment, it's really important to demonstrate that you appreciate the effort and that their willingness to put forth that material. And sometimes I take the opportunity to ask them, like, did something happen this week? This wasn't your best work. I really appreciate the time you spent on it. And then I can use that as an opening to say, hey, if something's going on, please feel free to talk to me because I'd rather you turn this in a little late and really feel proud of your work and feel like you got the most out of it than trying to rush and get it done on time. All right, next slide.
So to wrap up, if we think about how can we use RTC to address challenging topics, I think many of these points you're going to think, oh, they already talked about this. But remember, if we're wanting to talk about challenging topics or engage in discussions of challenging topics, or, really just this week, and right now I'm teaching a child and adolescent counseling class, and this week the topic is on early childhood trauma, which can bring up a lot for people. And so, I keep commenting on their discussion boards, like just some of these stories, some of the articles on things I'm having them read about trauma can be hard. And so just like remembering to give themselves a little bit extra grace and some space to process this. And so they can start thinking about that for their future as a counselor but now while they're just engaging with the material and not necessarily sitting with the hard stories. So, but we can model this in the classroom. So encouraging them to build those connections with each other. I always like to tell students that they need to find those people in their classes that they can, text and, help kind of build that support. So when they're struggling with an assignment or thinking, I don't know if I can keep going on with, my master's degree or, just struggling, I can reach out for support. And those connections are built and start in the classroom. So creating some resiliency within them. Kind of piggybacking off of that, encouraging the authentic engagement. You can't build connections with people if you're not authentic. And then also, I think it's important from this perspective is to address any power dynamics. Can't talk today. And so just really encouraging that your classroom is a safe space where marginalized voices can be amplified and heard. So, really just enforcing that if students haven't felt comfortable for whatever reason, that you want to give them an experience where they can feel comfortable and can feel like their voice, that they can share and that their voice is valued and respected. And also use assignments and discussions to foster growth within students and help them process these challenging topic or any potential challenging topic together. They can really bounce ideas off of one another. Sometimes I'm just really impressed by the engagement that I witness with students in a traditional discussion board format. Where they're just reading the post and then commenting on the post. You can always take those a next step and have them do video responses. That's always a really another dynamic of creating those connections when they can see each other and hear each other talk. So keep that in mind if you teach online and want to add another layer of kind of relational connection is video discussion boards. All right, next slide. So we want to kind of just spend the next few minutes, and you can feel free to, sorry, my Outlook is going crazy. Put in the chat, but based on what you have learned about relational cultural theory, what is one way you can think to start using it in your own classroom or infuse it into your own pedagogy? We've given you quite a few ideas about kind of what Dr. Metz and I do, because we've been talking about this with each other for quite a while now. But just curious if you want to put something in the chat and just kind of, or just think about it and have this be kind of a takeaway of, what are some, now knowing some of these things, what are some things that I can do if you haven't been doing any of these things, which is okay. That's why maybe you're here to learn more.
And if you would like, you can also come off of mute and speak it, because sometimes that's just easier. Whatever is most authentic to you.
I really appreciate the points you've made in your presentation here. Years ago, I read Harriet Schwartz's book, Connected Teaching, and it's such a wonderful read, isn't it? And how she just addresses things like making sure you're not shaming students, making sure you're not, and I loved, she had a line in there, I think it was something like, just to boil it down, the students are not going to learn from you if they don't like you. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be it's going to make things a lot harder. And when you mentioned, Dr. Jarvie, when we consider the number of adverse childhood experiences people have had now, and as you undoubtedly know, they've expanded that definition in recent years to include things like bullying, and there's very few people who get out of their youth or adolescence without at least one of those. So I think being aware of those and having that sort of compassion to work with students, to be open with students, to let them know you're on their team and you're here to help them
Right.
succeed, and repeatedly saying that so it sinks in. I just really enjoyed your presentation. I want to thank you so much.
Amy,
Yeah.
she was our
Ah,
inspiration
there she
for,
is. Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Dr. Jarvie and I are huge humanists, so we're really into Carl Rogers and the person-centered teaching as well as counseling because we are both counselors. And Sarah had mentioned this book to me, and so I read it and I was like, this is so great. And I think it's what we already do at the University of Arizona Global Campus. We talk about this idea of culture of care, and I feel like it really aligns well with that idea. And so we were really excited to bring this to other people's attention in case they would be interested in the ideas.
Yeah, it is a wonderful book. And I'll also never forget when you said something earlier, Dr. Metz, it made me think of it. It was a lecture from Brene Brown where she just asked the audience, has anyone had a teaching experience in a classroom where a teacher made them feel small? And
Mm.
everybody raises their hand. And so to just remember to not be that teacher. Be that teacher
Right.
that people look back on fondly and think, this person believed in me, this person encouraged me, this person, and that's not saying you just are supposed to heap praise on people, but you're the one who challenges them, but encourages them in a way that lets them know that they have value and they have worth and their ideas are strong and maybe they need to get stronger, but that you're willing to help them get to that point.
Mhm.
So I think about that so often, like which teacher do you want to be? Do you want to be the
Yeah.
one you remember for the wrong reasons? I sure hope not. So yeah, it's fits so beautifully with culture of care. I just and
That's a
Sarah,
great point.
so
I
much.
just put the book Amy talked about in the chat if anybody is interested in. Um, it's called Connected to Teaching. It's listed there, but I put it on the Amazon link, or feel free to look it up wherever you buy your books. I just Googled it quickly because that is kind of where this idea came from, is that book. And it's a good add to your library if this presentation resonates with you. Um, Dr. Metz, I didn't know if you saw Ted made a comment in the chat.
Yeah. So Dr. Ellis said excellent points on scaffolding, guidance and insights for productivity, clarity, assignment design that is commensurate with time anticipated for activity and purposeful feedback. Um, I think sometimes we get excited about our assignments, and so we can maybe go a little too big. And so really figuring out like we want our students to be able to put forth their best effort. And so if we're not realistic about what we're expecting, although they might be excited about the material, they might, within the time constraints, they might not reasonably be able to get it done and get the most out of it. And so really kind of finding that balance, and that can be really difficult. But that is the end of our presentation. So if anybody has any questions, we would love to hear from you. It looks like maybe there aren't any questions, so we really appreciate you joining us. We hope that you have some takeaways from this experience. But we're really excited about this type of teaching and infusing it within our own classrooms. And we hope that you can find at least one piece of information that we presented today and either it inspire you or you feel like you can implement it right away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Metz and Dr. Jarvie, for joining us. And thank you to the audience for being here as well in today's session. Please use the survey linked in the chat to nominate TLC presentations for conference awards. And please share your feedback on your conference experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.